Well, you know that the MTA is in desperate financial trouble.
The agency is looking at a $1.2 billion deficit, and commuters, well, they'll probably end up paying the price with another fare increase.
But is everyone feeling the pain? Take a look at what Fox 5's John Deutzman found out about the man in charge of the MTA.
When we caught up with the boss of the MTA, Elliot Sander, he was getting his shoes shined in Grand Central Station.
John Deutzman, Channel 5. How are you?
The MTA offices are connected to Grand Central, so if you see him here early in the morning, you would assume he took the train to work. After all, he says,
I take the train every day.
It sure would make sense for him to take the train to work. It's just a short 10-minute walk from his home in Douglaston, Queens, to the Long Island Railroad. From there, it's less than a half an hour to the city.
I take the train maybe 99% of the time.
But he didn't take the train to work on this day, or this one, or on the day we found him getting his shoes shined. 4 times in less than 3 weeks, Fox 5 caught Mr. Sander getting a ride in an MTA unmarked police car.
The last 2 or 3 weeks, I haven't taken the car. I mean, I really...
Yes, yeah, we've seen you.
Not before that.
Okay.
Really, I mean, I know my schedule.
But less than 3 weeks before this interview, here he is getting into the car outside his house. And off they go. At the wheel, an MTA detective. Detectives are scarce at the MTA, but Sander gets this one, was made more than $152,000 so far this year, including lots of overtime. This police protection is in addition to Sander's compensation package of $350 grand a year, which includes a salary of $290,000 and a $3,750 a month housing allowance. That's $45,000 a year for housing for this house that he lived in long before he became the MTA's CEO. Plus, he gets another $15 grand a year in deferred compensation for retirement. Now, despite huge money problems for the MTA, and despite the fact that commuters are facing a fare increase, this year, Sander received and accepted a $10,000 salary increase. The car and the driver are not part of his contract, but like many bigwigs in the city, Sander has a cop driving him around. Now, if you ask the MTA if Sander's using a very highly trained and highly paid detective as a personal chauffeur, they'll say no way. They'll say he's a very high-profile person running a huge agency and that he needs police protection.
There have been threats against my life, and there have been previous assassination attempts against the heads of the MTA, and so that has been the custom, and that was the recommendation of our director of security.
Sanders says he takes the cop car when he's going to attend public events and could be a target. Says he'll take it when the place he's going to is not easily accessed by public transportation.
Every so often I do a field trip where I use the car.
And when the weather forecast is bad, he says he needs the cop car in case he has to respond to a weather-related emergency, like when the subways flooded back in August of '07. But his reason for taking the car on the day we talked to him was rather strange.
And today's reason was?
Today's reason was that we have a function tonight, and I had to bring, I had to carry something physically where it's just, uncomfortable.
What'd you carry?
My suit. And I have my tuxedo for the event tonight.
That tuxedo trip was extra special because it included flashing police lights as the car backed into the MTA garage.
But in this environment, it's like...
I take the train every day. I do not like taking the car.
We have to take Mr. Sanders' word about taking the train. All we can say for sure is that we know in 2.5 weeks he took the cop car to work 4 times.
Take the train, 95%, 99%. Okay. I really do.
But not really, because later the MTA told us he usually takes the car about once a week. If true, that means he would take the train to work only 80% of the time.
The basic premise of what you're doing here, in terms of my wanting to use these cars and using it often, just is not true.
What we can say for sure that's true, on the morning after we had our little shoe shine chat with the MTA CEO,
Morning, Lee.
We saw him walking to the train station early in the morning without a police escort. It was cold, so he hung out inside with other commuters. And still without any cover from a bodyguard, Sander got onto the train and was off to work, along with more than 8 million other commuters serviced by his MTA.
I take the train every day.
Now, what about that assassination attempt that Sander referred to? Well, 27 years ago, a guy with a gun got into the MTA headquarters here and exchanged fire with an MTA cop. The cop got hit in the leg. He was okay. Richard Ravitch was the head of the MTA at the time. He was not in the building, so it was never considered an official assassination attempt. However, it opened the eyes of the MTA, and they claim it proves that some nut job, if they want, can target their agency. I'm John Deutzman, Fox 5 News.
Well, you pay for it with fares and tax dollars, so what do you think? Does the MTA CEO need a police car and detective to drive him around? Go to myfoxny.com and click on the blogs tab to let us know. And there you can also access the names, salaries, and perks given to other MTA bigwigs. Derry?